pressure of it and who doesn't. And so you never know for sure.
We had a quick glitch with the sound, but they can hear you now. Everybody was saying
okay.
They can't hear you. They can hear you now.
All right, so our sound is corrected. Anyway, I want to welcome all of you to our program, our live YouTube broadcast from the Race Club. Don't forget, if you haven't joined us already, go to the YouTube channel, the Race Club channel, click on join, and join as an elite member of the Race Club. And you're not only going to get what you see tonight in the YouTube broadcast, but you're also going to have access to some exclusive Race Club videos that we're only going to provide for our YouTube elite members. Also, if you have a question, and last time we didn't have enough questions, I want you to encourage you to ask questions or make comments throughout the show, and we'll try to get to all of them if we can at the end. But that's the purpose of this. It's interactive. We want you to ask us, and we want to learn from you. So make sure you ask the questions during the show. There's a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to go do a recap of the men's 200 free, women's 100 backstroke, men's 100 backstroke, and the women's 100 breaststroke. Following that, we're going to do a finals preview for tonight's events, which is the women's 200 free, the men's 200 fly, the women's 200 IM, the women's 1500 final, and the men's 800 free relay. And then finally, you're going to wrap up with a semifinals preview that you'll also see tonight for the men's 100 free, the women's 200 fly, the men's 200 breast. So let's start with a recap of last night when we saw some really amazing swims. And we'll start with the men's 200 freestyle. First of all, hats off to the UK. Getting first and second was unbelievable for them. Great swim from Tom Dean. Again, a surprise. I don't think people expected him to win. Duncan Scott, I think, was the clear favorite going into the race. And he lost that race by 4/100ths of a second to his countryman and teammate, Tom Dean. Third place, another surprise from Brazil, Fernando Scheffer. Great last 50. David Popovici, again, we've been hyping him. He didn't disappoint either. He was only 2/100ths from being on the medal stand as a 16-year-old swimming a lifetime best 144.68, just behind Fernando Scheffer. The American, Kieran Smith, a little bit of a disappointment, hoping to see him go under 145. Didn't do it. We're going to talk about why, in my opinion, he didn't get on the medal stand. But let's start with just the interesting analysis of those three top guys. Actually, four. We'll include Smith in there because he has a different technique, different than anyone else in that race. But you had Tom Dean from the UK and Duncan Scott, both swimming with different freestyle techniques at different stroke rates. Duncan Scott is a shoulder-driven freestyle. He's a great 100 guy, and you expect him to have the most speed at the end, which he did, but he just waited 4/100ths of a second too long to show it. Now, Tom Dean has a stroke very similar to David Popovici, and that is he's a hybrid freestyler. He's got like an 86 to 90 type stroke rate all the way through. And same as Popovici, very long, and he extends the arms way out, as you see him in the white cap here. He really extends those arms fully out of the water before he enters the water. Very similar technique to Popovici. And then you have Kieran Smith, who is a hip-driven freestyler with a stroke rate of 70. And when he gets to the end of the race, Kieran Smith increases his stroke rate to 82, where everybody else is getting close to 95 to 100 stroke rate. And that's a difference. But the thing I want you to go back and look at this race, it's on YouTube, where Tom Dean wins this race. It's very similar to what Ahmed Hafnaoui did in the 400, is he wins at 10 meters from the last turn, from the third turn. He goes into a higher stroke rate, strong kick, accelerates into the wall, and he comes out, and even with all the speed that Duncan Scott has, and he comes home, Duncan Scott comes home really well, as does Fernando Scheffer in the last 50, but it's not enough to catch Tom Dean. He just got the head enough to win that race just at the end of the third lap. Fernando Scheffer, also a hybrid freestyler, a little bit faster stroke rate, more in the 90 to 95 range, goes up to over 100 at the end. But Kieran Smith, who hangs in there all the way, if he goes from, even at a 70 hybrid freestyle, which is really slow, if he goes up to a 90 at the end, he has a chance to be on the podium, and he goes under 145. He just has to learn to increase that stroke rate and sprint it in a little bit better. Now let's go to the women's 100 backstroke, where, again, it failed. It did not fail to disappoint in that the three people that we expected to be on the podium ended up on the podium. Now, it wasn't quite the way I'd anticipated. I really expected Regan Smith to win this, but Kaylee McKeown from Australia did an amazing job, and she deserved to win it. And she won this race in the last 15 to 20 meters. So Kaylee McKeown starts out at 104 stroke rate. Kylie Moss from Canada, 104 stroke rate. Regan Smith, 108 stroke rate on the first 50. They make the turn. So Kaylee from Australia, comes out a little bit slower at 98. Same with Kylie. They come out a little bit slower, and they slow all the way back. But then Regan stays with 108 all the way back. So why is she getting beat at the end? Well, I think the main reason here, especially for Kaylee McKeown, is her kick at the end. You see a tremendous distance per stroke, a tremendous kick at the end. She and Regan were behind Kylie Moss at the 50. Kylie was 27.9. Kaylee and Regan almost the same time at 28.2. When they come off that wall, they all have great underwater kicks, and they explode out of that breakout. Kaylee just builds it all the way back. And even though her stroke rate is slowing at the end, you see her really hold her speed all the way into the wall. She touches at 57.47 for the gold medal. Kylie is second from Canada at 57.7, and Regan is third at 58 flat. It's a great swim. Regan was pretty much the same stroke rate as she was in Korea when she went 57.5. What was the difference? Well, I think nerves, part of it, and second, I think her body position. I think her head was up just slightly high here compared to in Korea where she let off in 57.5. Now, I fully expect Regan to be more effective in the leading off the women's 4x100 medley relay, and I expect her to be 57 mid. She's a relay swimmer, and I think she's going to be really fast leading off. So we'll see what she does. Now the men's 100 backstroke. Again, very great race. Hats off to the Russians. Evgeny Rylov, who really expected, I thought we'd see him win the 200. I didn't expect him to win the 100, to be truthful, but he had an amazing swim. He finishes 51.98. Clement Kolesnikov, 52 flat, and Ryan Murphy, 52.1. And we analyze each of their stroke rates. They're a little bit different. So you see Evgeny Rylov at 94.95 stroke rate, slower than the other two, and then dropping down to maybe 92 stroke rate at the end. He's down a little bit slower than Kolesnikov, who was down in 24.9. Rylov was actually 24.96, so almost the same time. And then Ryan Murphy a little bit behind at 25.26. Now, even still, I expected to see Ryan Murphy somehow pull this off in the last 50. He was down in 100 stroke rate. He was back at 100 stroke rate. What went wrong? I don't really think anything. I think Ryan swam a great race. When you look at it, I'm not sure what he won the Olympics in Rio was. It wasn't much slow or faster than that, but it was maybe a little bit faster. He went 51.8 on the relay, but Ryan swam at 52.19. That's a very fast time. It just wasn't fast enough. How Rylov gets in there at the end was pretty impressive, because it looked to me like Kolesnikov had this to win and should have won this race, and all he had to do was hold stroke rate, but he dropped from 105 down to 92 in the last 10 meters, and you see Rylov get into the wall and out-touch him by just he was 2/100ths ahead of him. I mean, Kolesnikov really had that race wrapped up. He just didn't hold stroke rate at the end. Ryan was a great job, just didn't quite have enough speed to get home and beat those guys. Now we go to the women's 100 breaststroke, and what a race that was. I love this race because it's a bit of humble pie for Coach Gary, because I have preached for a long time that the model breaststroke is the new power breaststroke with a fast stroke rate and a lot of coupling. You see 7 out of 8 swimmers in this race elevating, coming down hard, high stroke rate. Tatiana Schoenmaker from South Africa's 58 stroke rate down, 58 stroke rate back. Lily King actually starts out too fast. She goes at 62 stroke rate for the first 15 meters. I think she was just too excited, wanted it too much at the beginning, trying to win it all in the first 25 meters. She slows down to a 58 stroke rate as she gets close to the 50. And you notice that in the last 4 or 5 strokes going into the turn, you'll see Tatiana shoot ahead. Now, where's Lydia in all this? Well, Lydia comes out. She's got one of the worst starts and turns in the entire field, maybe the worst in this entire field. And she gets killed on the start. When she comes up, she is literally at Lily King's feet. She's 2 lanes over, and she's about at Tatiana's waist, but she does nothing but just catch them all the way down. Lydia swims kind of old school breaststroke. That is, she doesn't elevate a lot. She keeps her shoulders relatively low. She has tremendous propulsion from her kick. She has the longest distance per stroke of anyone out there, and she uses that to her advantage. Great streamline, but what you see from her is consistency. 46 down, 46 back. If you measure swimming speed, she's the fastest one in the pool. If you measure start and turn, if she had Lily King's start and turn or Tatiana's start and turn, she's 104.3, 104.4. But 104.9 wins the race. And it's steady speed all the way down, all the way back. Great streamlining, amazing kick. And she pulls wide, but she also kicks narrow, but she has this low and very streamlined projectile forward as she surges forward with each kick. When you watch her, she doesn't look like she's going very fast. Kind of like watching Michael Andrew in breaststroke. Doesn't look like he's going very fast because the stroke rate is so slow. But she does, and you look how far she goes with each kick. It's just amazing. She can outkick everybody in the finals, and it's good enough for the 17-year-old to win the gold medal. Hats off to her, and also humbling for me, because that's not a stroke that I would necessarily teach an elite swimmer. However, young swimmers have to start out like that because they don't have the leg speed to be able to swim like Tatiana or Lily. So it's a good lesson on how to learn how to do breaststroke correctly. Now, will she continue to get better? Will she change her technique? I don't know. She might be a person where you teach her, elevate the shoulders and introduce coupling, and it changes everything, and she goes slower instead of faster. You just don't know. That's what makes breaststroke such an amazing and interesting stroke. All right, so let's move into the finals preview for the women's 200 free. And I think this is a little bit of a replay of what we saw the other night. I think it turns out to really be a race between Katie and Ariarne. I'd love to see Katie win this, but I think it's more the same. We're going to see Ariarne come back, and we're going to see her beat Katie in the end. Now, Ariarne is faster. There's no doubt about it. So Katie has one strategy, and it's the only strategy she can use, and that's to go out. She doesn't go out fast. She's not going to win this race in the last 50 meters or 25 meters. Her hope is to get ahead, stay ahead. She's going to go high stroke rate. You're going to see her probably in the first 50 meters, well over 100 stroke rate. And then you're going to see her hang on. And will she be able to hang on well enough? Well, I don't think she will. I think Ariarne's going to win this in 153.5. I see Katie going 154.1. And who's going to get third? Well, I don't know. I'm going to take a shot at Chauvin Howie, who swims at Michigan. She's another Mike Bottom swimmer. 154.9, I'm predicting Chauvin will do and get the bronze medal. But look for a 153 low. I don't think we're going to see a world record. By the way, the world record holder, Federica Pellegrini, is still swimming in the finals, which is pretty amazing. I think this is her 5th Olympics. And I love her. She's an amazing athlete and a great kick and a great stroke rate. But I don't like her head position. You can watch and you can see that in the race, how her head is extremely high. And I think that hurts Federica. I don't think she used to do that, or maybe not as much as she does now. So now let's switch over to the men's 200 fly, and this is the Krzysztof Milak show. There isn't really anyone else in this race who can even come close. I mean, this is more dominating than the 100 breaststroke was for Adam Peaty. Now, the only question in my mind is Krzysztof going to be able to go under 150? Now, you watch this guy swim. It's just unbelievable how easy he looks and how long he is. His DPS is greater than Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps would move 10 feet with every stroke he took, 10 feet further down the pool. Great kick, great underwater pull. Milak is even better than Phelps. He takes one less stroke per lap. I'm predicting he wins the gold medal. It won't even be a race. He's going to be so far ahead of the rest of the field, it's almost going to be laughable. But he's going to go 149.8 tonight in the finals and win. First guy under 200 or under 150 in the 200 fly. What does he have to do to be out to do that? I think he can do it if he's 51.9, 51.8, something like that. 52 flat. He might have trouble coming back fast enough. But watch for him. He just looks so easy and he's so long. I love his ascending trajectory. You can see here in the World Championships in 2019 how easy he looked. Starting out, you see Leclos, and Leclos is always going to go out fast. He just won't be able to hang on. But you see how Krzysztof just pummels him on the second 100. And look at that ascending trajectory with his arms. And he has such massive strength on his pull. And then you couple that with an amazing kick. It just doesn't even look like he's working. Yesterday at 152.2, he looked like he was playing around. I mean, he literally took his foot off the gas at a couple of places in that race where he could have gone faster. So tonight, if he doesn't hold back, if he really lays it out on the line, you may see a sub 150. Who gets second? Your guess is as good as mine. You've got 7 guys in this race who could get second place, and I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know. I mean, maybe Leclos goes under 155. I do think this, 154 gets you a medal in this race. I don't think a lot of guys are going to go much under 155. And if you go 154 something here, and any one of these 7 guys could do that, they're going to get on the podium. So it's really a one-man show. Be fun to watch because you may never see a guy swim butterfly as well as Krzysztof Milak does. And you're talking about comparing with Michael Phelps, the greatest butterflyer of all time. So we'll see how fast he goes. It's really his show tonight. Now we got the women's 200 IM. This is going to be another amazing race. Look at the times on this from going into the finals. I mean, this is one of those where throw a dart and who's going to win this. I have my predictions, but this could really anybody. You've got Katinka, who won this event 4 years ago, not having a great Olympics. Don't think she's going to win. Don't think she's going to get on the podium, but she could. She's that tough. She just isn't swimming well right now. So who is going to get on the podium? Well, I'm going to predict that the 2 Americans are going to end up on the podium, and I actually predict Kate Douglas wins this event. Why over Alex? Well, Alex struggles in the freestyle. She's got a great first 3 legs, but she's going to struggle. She always does coming home. At the trials, there's one more stroke to the wall, and she is, not going to make it. So she just really was hanging on. And even in the prelims or in the semis, she just really struggled a little bit at the end. Kate, however, comes home well, and she has a beautiful fly. Not as good a breaststroke. And really the one to watch, though, I think here is Yuihashi, because she won the 400 IM. She's full of confidence. She goes 209.1, or she went 209, what was she, 209.7 in the semis. But I think she goes 209.1 tonight and takes the silver. I believe Kate Douglas goes 208, 208.7. That's my prediction. And I've got Alex Walsh at 209.2. But there's Abby Wood, there's Yiting Yu from China, there's Sydney Peckham from Canada. All of them, if they have a great race tonight, could end up on the podium. So we'll see. It's going to be a fun race to watch. I'm cheering for Kate, a wonderful girl, great swimmer from Virginia. Love to see her win this race tonight. And we've got the men's 4x200 freestyle relay. So this one is the UK show. This is Great Britain's race. And the only question in my mind is Great Britain going to break the world record, which is 6:58, I believe, and that was from back in, there it is, from the U.S. I think that was back in 2008. They did that time. When you look on paper, Britain has a chance to do that. And first of all, they've got the top two guys, finishers in the 200 free, and Tom Dean and Duncan Scott. And then you throw James Guy in there, who split 144.2, I think, this morning on their qualifying relay. And, they could put anybody on the fourth spot and still win it. But to get into the world record, I think they're going to need somebody to go 145 low, maybe 144 high. And I think then they break the record. Second, I predict, is going to be Australia. And Australia's in lane 5 next to them. I think they just have too much firepower. They're not as good as they used to be. They don't dominate those 200s like they used to, but they have 4 strong swimmers, and I see them taking the silver. And I think the U.S. is going to take the bronze. Now, the question in my mind is who is going to be on that relay for the United States? Townley Haas, who's a great relay swimmer, is not having a great Olympics. He didn't get into the finals of the 200 free, and he didn't look good. And so maybe they pull him off. You had Drew Kibler lead off this morning in 146 low, and Townley was also 146 low. I'm thinking maybe they just go with Townley because he's such a great relay swimmer. And you've got Kieran on there. Kieran's going to have to step up and swim faster than he did in the 200. Hopefully he finishes with a higher stroke rate. That gets him into the 144 low range on the relay. The other person is Blake Peroni. Blake also, I think, a great relay swimmer from Indiana, from the United States. And the fourth guy is Caeleb. And Caeleb, if he comes out of that semifinal of the 100, which I think he will in a 47 low, and he feels good doing it, I think Caeleb could possibly split 144 on the relay. He went 146 in the prelims at the trials, looking pretty easy. Now if you watch him, when you swim that, you'll see him change his technique. He'll go from shoulder-driven to a hybrid freestyle. And I think Caeleb is capable of going 144. He's really trained well. Greg Troy has improved his aerobics. The guy's a great middle distance freestyler, so we'll see what he does. So it's, in my opinion, it's Drew Kibler, Townley Haas, and I'm not sure who's going to be put on that relay with Kieran, Blake Peroni. Possibly Blake would be held off too. I mean, there's Drew, and Drew led off with the 146 low. Blake won a 146 low with a relay start. So I'm not sure exactly who gets on, who gets off, but it's between those 3 guys. 2 of them will be selected, and I think they get third. But it's going to be an amazing relay tonight for Great Britain. Watch to see if they can break the world record. All right, and then we have some previews of the semifinals. We've got the men's 100 free tonight. This is going to be a great race. This is fast. I mean, you're going to see, I think it's going to take 47.8 to make the finals. And we already have 6 guys under 48. 6 guys going in the prelims under 48. Tonight, a lot of those guys are laying it on the line. They're not going to hold back. So I think 47.8 makes the finals, and I think 47.2, maybe 47.1 is going to be your top qualifier. I believe it's going to boil down to the same race we saw in 2018, which is between Caeleb and Kyle Chalmers. And I think Kyle comes off a 46.4 split on his freestyle relay. He had 46.6 in the morning, 46.4. He looked strong going 47.7. Caeleb looked good. He actually swam a much smarter race here than he did leading off the relay. So I think he felt good about that. But tonight, those guys need to establish themselves as to who is going to dominate that race. And I hope we're going to see them together in the finals. So I predict 47.1, 47.2 for either Chalmers or Caeleb, or both of them. And they'll be duking it out tomorrow night in the finals. The women's 200 fly, again, a little bit disappointing to me to see that it only took 2:15 to get back into the semis. So it didn't take a very fast swim, considering 2:05 was a world record that Mary T. Mahler set in 1980. 2:05 would have been your fastest qualifier today, and that seems crazy that it hasn't gotten that much faster. This is kind of a wide open field. I mean, right now, I feel like it's really Yufei Zhang who had a 2:07.5 this morning, but she went out pretty fast. I think she's got to hold back a little bit. She did not come home well, but I think she swims a smarter race. Maybe goes 2:06 tonight. I also would love to see Haley Flickinger go a 2:06 or 2:07 low. The rest of it, I'm not sure. I think Regan Smith, is going to maybe go 2:07. I don't see her as probably going much faster than that, although I don't know. I just don't think it's her specialty event. Lian Yu from China, 2:08. Not sure. The rest of those people, it's going to be interesting to see, but I think that we'll see a race end up, I think, between Haley Flickinger and Yufei Zhang in the finals. Then we've got the men's 200 breaststroke, and I think that's going to be an interesting race as well. This morning I liked the way Arno looked. Arno Kuminga and Zach Stubbly Cook from Australia. Zach came back amazingly fast in the last 50. It reminded me a little bit of the way Anton Chupkov swims the race. The last 50 just blitzing. And it looked like Arno had this race easily, and he ends up tying, I think, Zach Stubbly Cook with the same time at 2:07.3. And then you've got Chupkov at 2:08.5, and Nick Fink had a good swim also at 2:08.4. The 10th or the 16th time in this was 2:09.9. So this is a race that in reality, there are a lot of people that could win it. And we could see what we saw in Rio where like at 150, any one of 5 swimmers could have won the race. So this was from the European Championships, I think, where you see 4 or 5 of the guys that are going to be in the semifinals tonight in this race. And there's you've got Chupkov in here, Matti Mattsson from Finland. You've got Arno Kuminga in there in this particular race you're watching. And I think, it was from Sweden, Eric Persson from Sweden. So a lot of the people in the semifinals tonight are in this particular race. You're going to really see an interesting race tonight to get into the finals. It could take a sub 2:09 to get in. I probably will. You've already got, the top 8 guys at 2:09 or better. And I think most of them, didn't hold back much, but I think you're going to see them go a little faster tonight. And what does it take to win tomorrow night in the finals? I think 2:06.9 or 2:06.7 or 2:06 something is going to win. I don't think we're going to see a world record. If we do see a world record, it might be tonight, but it'll be an interesting race to watch. So my prediction to win it, I think I'm going to go with, I'm going to actually go with the Australian. I don't know why, but I think Stubbly Cook looked the best, and he came back so strong. And Arno Kuminga, silver, and I think Chupkov will take bronze. All right, so don't forget our membership. Go on to the Race Club YouTube channel, Race Club, and click on join and join our membership. It's $4.99 a month, but you get a lot of exclusive content. Last week we released some videos on breathing techniques in butterfly. Earlier this week we released a great video on medium octane freestyle. A lot of good content in there. This is Jimmy Fegan, who swam for the U.S. in the 2016 Olympics, was a 47.500 freestyler, won the World Championships, I believe, in 2015 or 13, I forget what year, but great swimmer from the University of Texas using a medium octane freestyle. And you'll see tonight in the 100 freestyle, a lot of those guys are medium to medium high. There are not too many straight arm guys in this race, I don't think, but there are a few. There have been many in the past. All right, I think it's time to take some questions or comments. So we're going to go to the screen. Let's look at a couple of questions here.
You can't see that far, but Adam Berger is wondering if it was Jacoby's kick that got her to the finish line.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacoby's kick is relentless. It's powerful. From a technical standpoint, she's not doing a lot of things that we think are important. But it all boils down to propulsion from the legs. And we say that over and over. This is a kick-dependent stroke. It is the most kick-dependent stroke. And if you want to have a great breaststroke, it starts with a great kick. Now, they all have great kicks. But I would bet if you had a 50-kick race, that Lydia Jacobi would beat them all. She's just got amazing propulsion from her kick, from her legs. She doesn't outstroke rate anybody. 46 stroke rate, just to put that in perspective, is what she held all the way down, all the way back. That's what Ryan Lochte did in his 200 IM on the breaststroke split, or on his breaststroke leg of the 200 IM. And that's kind of what we see in the 200 IM as a breaststroke split, or a stroke rate in the 2 IM, not in the 4 IM. The 4 IM, it's usually a little slower than that, but 46 stroke rate to win 100 is like going back and watching Kitajima win the 100 years ago on the men's side with a 42 stroke rate. I mean, it's just a different technique, and it's still good enough to win today. Now, that time wouldn't have won 4 years ago, so sometimes you have to be at the right time in the right place, and she was. She didn't have the nerve. She didn't have the expectations. I have to tell you a funny story, because I looked over to my wife, and I was an Indiana guy, right? So I'm telling her, I hope Lily can pull this out. She looks nervous to me, and she looked back to me and said, and I said, you know, maybe Lydia can medal. And Mary looked over at me and says, you know, I think Lydia could win this. And it kind of blew me away, because no one thought Lydia was going to win this race other than maybe Lydia and maybe her coach. I don't know. But I looked at her like, really? You think she's going to win it? And what does she do? She wins it. So she was relaxed. She was having fun. And there's a lot to be said for that. Those athletes that can relax and enjoy and smile are going to swim way better and swim faster.
We have somebody asking if you think by 2024 somebody will take down Paul Biederman's records.
You know, Paul Biederman's 400 and 200, 200 particularly, toughest world record on the book. You know, if there's one guy I would say this guy has a chance to break that record, it's David Popovici. And this 18-year-old from Korea who this morning went 47.9. That's amazing that Popovici is 16, can go 47.3, and I hope he'll make the finals tonight. I think he might. I think he will. And you got this Korean going 47. 9 this morning, and 144 in the 200. But I like Popovic's chances to go under 142, and I don't know how he develops or how he matures or how, you know, anything, except I'd say if he's going that fast now, maybe, just maybe, that record will finally be broken. The 400, you know, again, I mean, we're watching guys go slower than we saw. I just put it in perspective. I sat and watched Kieran Perkins in 1994 in Rome, when my son first made his debut in the World Championships. I saw him go 343 and win the World Championships in 1994. And here we are in 2021, and 343 wins the Olympic Games. So some of these races are not progressing the way we think they should, and others are. And I think it boils down to if some superstar comes along, like an Ian Thorpe, and takes the time from 340 down to 343 down to 340, and does that several times. And Su Yang, who was down there too, we may see that record broken. But until that superstar comes along for the 400, like you have with a guy like David Popovici, I don't know we're going to see anybody under 340 anytime soon. You never know, though. Next year, somebody could jump up and just be incredible in that race.
Nicholas is wondering if you have any advice for new head coaches of small teams.
You know, I think when you're a new coach and you have a small team, take advantage of that time you have. Learn about technique, and that's one of the things you're going to watch. And even though, you know, here we see Lydia with what I would not consider to be ideal technique win the Olympics, she's still using a technique that works for her. And breaststroke is tricky. Breaststroke is not as simple as the other strokes. Look in the 100, 200 freestyle, we saw 3 different techniques: hip-driven, shoulder-driven, and hybrid, all finishing almost at the same time. So you have to be careful that you don't put everybody into the same mold. They're not. You gotta design the technique for the swimmer that works the best for him. But work on the basics. There are commonalities. The pulling motion, the hand entry, and the pulling motion differs in freestyle, for example, whether you're swimming a 50 or 100 or 200, but you see very similar pulling motions in those races for the elite swimmers. Head position, you still see mistakes being made in head position, head and body position, but not that many. And overall, I would just say across the board, never downplay the importance of the kick. The kick is so critical in all four strokes, especially your breaststroke. The women, probably 80% of the velocity is contributed from the kick, 70 to 80% depending on the power of the upper body. But I would say clearly in Lydia's case, it's an 80% kick, her velocity. And then you've got, you've got all the other strokes. The dolphin kick is critical to the fly. If you don't have a strong dolphin kick, you're not going to be great in the fly, and backstroke as well. So, all right, let's move on to another question here. Halleck Stewart asked about Milok's breakout. And it's interesting because somebody pointed that out to me a while ago, and he doesn't actually take a down kick on his pullout right at the breakout. He kind of goes with what I call the check swing. That's the only time he does that in the race. He always has two strong down kicks. And there were guys in the past like Laszlo Shea and Chase Kalish, who was a really good 200 flyer, 154 200 flyer, who swam with one of the two hard down kicks hard and the other one soft, or what I call the check swing. Now, Christoph does that on the breakout, and maybe it's because his pull is so strong, his upper body is so strong, he just holds his legs straight. Is that kind of that little brief vacation he's taking with his legs? I'm not sure. Would he be faster if he did a down kick in that point? Perhaps. But this guy stays, he's relentless. He just stays the course, and you just don't see him slowing down. His second 100 is just amazing. He just pulls away from everybody. His first 100, he looks like he's going on a Sunday stroll. I mean, the guy is so strong. And upper body kick, he has it all. Summer McIntosh, yeah, I mean, that's an amazing story right there. I guess she's 15 now. She was 14 recently, maybe at the trials. But I watched her. I was really pulling for her to medal. She was fourth in the 400 free, but wow. And she is the future, I think, of the 400. I don't know how much longer, if Katie's going to continue on. She's at the twilight of her career, I feel. But Ariarne definitely has some years left. Not sure how many, especially when they win at this point. Sometimes it takes the fuel out of their fire. Summer McIntosh, she's hungry and she's talented. I wouldn't be surprised to see her become the next superstar in the 400. And she's fast, too, 200 as well. So a great swimmer from Canada. What time will it be in the men's 100-meter semifinal tonight? I think the range goes from 47.1 or 2 to 47.8, making the finals. What are the splits Caeleb needs to have in order to beat Chambers in the final? You know, they're different swimmers, and they have to swim their race. And in the final, I think you have to see Caeleb do what he does best, which is he's a half a body length ahead of everybody on the start, and he's got to control the first race, but still he's got to be, 22 low, and he's got to be able to come back. I think it's going to boil down, like it did in 2019, into the last 8 strokes in the wall. If you go back to that race, you see Caeleb actually go into his high stroke rate 13 meters from the wall. Now, this morning when he went 47.7, he only took 3 strokes hard into the wall. And he looked like he came up and he was happy because he felt a lot easier doing that than he did 47.2 leading off the relay. I think Kyle is going to go out like Kyle goes out. He's 22.8 maybe. He's going to be behind. He knows that. He's got a relentless kick, but he's just like a machine. He's like Milok in the 200 fly, or Lydia was last night in the 100 breaststroke. He's 105 stroke rate down and 105 stroke rate back. And the only question is, can he get to the wall before Caeleb? What we saw happen in 2019 is Kyle Chalmers almost caught Caeleb with 13 meters to go, and then Caeleb went into his high octane, head down, no breath, 8 strokes into the wall, and it ended up pulling the race out. Similar to what Nathan Adrian did in 2012 against James Magnuson, where he puts the head down. Magnuson actually took the lead away from Nathan, and Nathan puts the head down and gets gets the gold medal back by 100th of a second. And I think the difference between Chalmers and Caeleb in 2019 was only a couple hundredths of a second. It was a really close race. Yeah, I think Richard comments on how the velocity is being shown on the races now, the first time, and I think that's cool. I like to look at that because it is important. It's variable, but sometimes you see when people are starting to slow down or their stroke rate slowing or they're getting tired, you see their velocity drop off, and that's good that you can see that now. Let's take another question. Why is Chalmers able to come home so fast? Well, he trains that way, and he doesn't have he doesn't have the speed of Caeleb or a lot of the guys in there. He's not really a 50 guy, so you got to have to play the strategy in the race that you're dealt, and those are the cards you know. Great kick. He's a medium high octane shoulder driven guy with 105 stroke rate down, 105 back. He just comes home almost as fast as he goes out. He comes off that wall and he's just like a machine. He just doesn't slow down. Nobody comes back. I think his fastest 50 coming back is 24 flat or 24-1. Nobody can come back like that besides him. I mean, there have been some others close. Popovici was back in 24-3 or 4, I think. But, other than those two guys, most of those guys are 24 high. When Gary was swimming, my son, if he came back in 25 low, I thought that was amazing for him to come back that fast. Now these guys are, coming back in 24 mid, 24 high, and Chalmers is 24 low. Is there a good way to watch the Olympics live from the UK? I can't help you there. I wish I could. I don't know what the BBC is doing. NBC kind of has a monopoly on this. They kind of control it. There is live broadcast in Australia, though, so I don't know if you're able to figure out how to get that. You might be able to watch it live from Australia or the Australian network. Chad LeClos, chance of medaling in the 2 fly. Well, if I gave Chad any advice at all, it would be don't go out like a banshee, like you did this in the prelims. He was. I don't know what he was at the 100, but he was like 2 body lengths ahead. It's just his nature to do that. But he was really hurting at the end. I think if he controls his race a little bit, he's got all the speed he needs to finish, and he's well trained. I don't particularly like his stroke. I think he over elevates a little bit. He starts out with an ascending trajectory, but then at the end he's really slicing the arms into the water. Ends up wide at the end because he tires at the end. His arms become bent. He doesn't keep a straight arm. So I think he's got to just control the first 100. If he does, he can go 154 easily and get a medal. He probably could win the silver if he swims a smart race. If he doesn't, he may end up getting past at the end. So are there any other questions?
One question that came in there at the end.
How does a swimmer achieve a push-up like Caeleb? You start with great parents who have amazing vertical leap ability, and then you go from there. A lot of it's genetic. Can you improve your vertical leaping? By the way, Caeleb has allegedly a 42-inch vertical, or 41-inch, which is almost the same as LeBron James. And how does he get that? Well, that's a lot of genetics in there, born with that amazing ability, that fast twitch fibers. The more interesting question to me is how does a fast twitch guy like that finish a race the way he does, especially in this fly when he's 1 up, 1 down, and he finishes 8 strokes in the wall without a breath. That to me almost defies physiology. So here's a fast twitch guy who trains aerobically and has the ability to come home fast, and that's really almost an oxymoron. When you just almost never see that happen. But Caeleb is one of a kind in the way he trains, and he has the genetics of a fast twitch guy, but he trains more like a middle distance guy, and that's what gives him that tremendous finish at the end. So you can change your vertical, by the way. You don't change it by leaps and bounds. So if you have a 20-inch vertical, you can probably, by doing a lot of plyometric jumps, strength training, squats, leg training, explosive ballistic kind of movements, you might get up to 24, 25, 26. You're not going to go to 42 because you don't have a composition of your muscles. You don't have enough fast twitch to get you up there. And it's unusual. If you're over 30, that's very high. Caeleb's over 40, which is amazing. The two most important things on his start, and you'll watch him tonight, he'll be a half body length ahead. And those guys are all good starters. There's nobody in there with a bad start. But he'll be a half a body length of everybody. And that's because of two things. The two most important of the 10 things we teach on the start are two that are hardest to change. One is your vertical leap ability, and that's basically your muscle composition. How much fast twitch anaerobic fibers do you have versus type 1 fibers, which are slow twitch red fibers. And so he has more white or fast twitch fibers to enable him to do that. The second is what is your dolphin kick speed? Those are the two most important things on the start. He has both in spades. His dolphin kick speed is as fast as anybody I've ever seen. And so you put that together, he not only hits the water probably a half a meter further than everybody else. We measured Brad Tandy, by the way, when we did a velocimeter. He hits the water at 3.44 meters. I've never had another elite athlete that I've tested yet over 3 meters hitting the water from the wall. So Caeleb's out there at 3.5 meters, maybe more, I'm not sure, I've never measured him. From there, he just gets further ahead with this amazing dolphin kick. And he often hits 15 meters with 6 kicks. Everybody else is taking 7 or 8 to get to 15 meters, and he's out there with 6 kicks, 5 or 6 sometimes. So tremendous advantage. Now, he's in clear water. Now he just has to hold it, and that's what he tries to do without, spending it all in the first 50. He needs to be 22 flat or 22-1 and feeling comfortable doing it. And then he has a chance to go 40, a world record, I think, if he does that. So how crucial is the stroke rate of 100 in the freestyle? It's got to be over 100. You won't see any of these guys. I mean, Kate Campbell is probably 92 stroke rate, 93 stroke rate. She's the longest, and she's an amazing athlete, very strong. I have never seen almost any elite athlete who's much under 100 in the 100 stroke rate. And I'm talking about big, tall guys. All of them are around 100 or up. You'll see Caeleb around, he'll vary. He might go down in 100, but as he approaches the turn, you'll see him go up to maybe 105. He'll come out of the turn with 105. This is what he did in 2019. Then he drops down to like 97, and then he hits that 13-meter mark, puts his head down, and goes back up to 106 or 107 into the wall. Whereas Chalmers, you'll see him go down even keel. He'll go down 105. He'll come back at 105. Anyway, it's critical. You cannot go a 70 stroke rate and go fast. Talking under 50 or something like that. Even Kieran Smith, who was 70 stroke rate in the 200 on the way out, first 150 or was around 70 stroke rate. He's out. I don't know what his split at the 100 was. It was probably 51, which is really fast for 70 stroke rate. And he's a hip-driven guy. He's symmetrical. He's not a hybrid. But you've got to have the stroke rate. You've got to have the RPM to go fast. How do you increase your stroke rate? Well, the Tempo Trainer is a great tool to do that. Finis makes it, the company. It's a little device. It's like a metronome. You put it on your cap behind your ear, and you set it to whatever you think you need to do. The important thing is knowing what you need to do in terms of stroke rate. That depends a little bit on the distance, the age, the gender, as well as the stroke we're talking about. So you've got to know what to set those in, and that's what we do at the race club. We determine what your ideal stroke rate is, and then we try to get you to train, at that stroke rate. Any other questions, or are we about done?
That's it.
I think we're done. Great show today. Thank you. It was a little long, but I appreciate you guys joining, and look forward to being on again with you in 2 days. We'll recap the events that have happened. We'll preview those that are remaining, and it'll be fun. It's exciting. Don't forget to join. Hit the YouTube channel. Hit join at the top and become an elite member of the race club. And we'll catch you in a couple of days. Thanks again for watching.